so I just like.
Like, even look at how tiny the screen is. Can you guys see that in the back?
Yes.
Enough? Sorry about this. All right, so let's do the best we can with what we have. And then the next time the computer works without a problem, we'll all be really super grateful about that. For now, we just make the best of what we got. So your homework last night was an average of, I think it was a 7 out of 9, which is pretty good. Or 7.5 out of 9, so close to an 8 out of 9, so that's awesome. I'm going to go through this because tomorrow you'll have a sub, so you won't have me, and your work that you'll be doing in class is really just practice of what you've learned already. I'm going to show you exactly where in your notes you'll be doing things with the sub. The sub may not use the board, they may just kind of talk to you and let you do practice, and we'll go over it with the whiteboards. So I just want to make sure you know exactly what's going on for tomorrow. But this is exactly a review of what you'll be practicing more of tomorrow. So that's why if you have any questions, make sure you're just asking me and clarifying anything that you need to clarify. All right, number 1.
Black, because you're like,
this turned off, so at least they can hear me though, okay? So Mill River generally flows toward which compass direction? So here's Mill River, this black line on the page. The first thing I would have done is put in north, south, east, and west. So if you didn't do this, put this in now. And if you weren't here and you don't have this homework, there's some right up here you can come grab one so you can copy down the correct answers. So they want to know the direction that the river will flow. So the first way to know this is based on the numbers on the contour line. So since this is the ocean, I know that this first contour line is 0. Okay, the value of it is 0. And so everything that goes away from it is going to be counting up by 20. So if this is 0, this is 20, 40, 60, and then 80. And so based on that, we should be able to figure out the direction the river flows, because the river should go toward lower elevations, and most rivers lead to the ocean. And so the way that we would know this is to follow the river down towards 0. So the compass direction it's going toward is the northeast. That's C. Now there was another way that you could have known this as well. So if you look at the contour lines themselves, you see that they're kind of all rounding toward the same direction. I'll trace over this in blue so you can see it. Okay, so you may want to do this too on yours if you didn't notice it before. Contour lines all point toward the source of the river. And the source is always something that's a higher elevation. And so they point opposite of the direction that the river is flowing. So if the lines are pointing away toward, let's say, the south-southwest, we know that the river flows opposite, which is toward the north-northeast. So that's your answer for question number 1. For question number 2, it's kind of based on the same thing, and they want to know what the elevation of Z is. So Z is on this line. And what I notice is that it's a circle within a circle within another circle. So that tells me that this is some kind of hill. And so if this is a hill, and I know I'm counting by 20s, the line inside the 200 line should be 220. Okay, so that's what Z is, 220 for that one. Okay. Any questions on those first two, which is based on math? Or things you were confused by, or something that doesn't make sense to you? I would have hoped that you guys used your notes in order to complete this, because it's really hard to do this without having practiced it a bunch before. This was really your first practice. Okay, so this was 220 for B. Now let's look at 3. So 3 says, a contour topographic map indicates that a stream is flowing across the land at a constant volume. Constant volume is just another way of saying that the water flow is constant. Okay, so let's just say like same amount of water. And instead of writing water, I'm writing H2O because I'm lazy. So constant volume means same amount of water. So they want to know where on the map would have the highest velocity of water. So highest velocity is another way of saying fast speed. Okay? And we don't usually use the word velocity. We use the word speed instead. And so when water moves over a landscape, will it move faster if it's a steep location or a flat location? Just based on common sense and maybe going to Splish Splash once or twice before, where should the water move fastest? On a steep slide, like Shotgun Falls, or a flat one, kind of like Lazy River? What do you think, Giancarlo? Steep, exactly. And so your job is to look at these clues that they tell you about contour lines and pick the one that means steep. So they say closely spaced contour lines, no contour lines, parallel to two contour lines, or widely spaced contour lines. Only one of these means steep. Does anyone know which one means it's steep location? Yeah. A. Good. Closely spaced is another way to say, and you can write this off to the side, steep. Water is going to move faster over a steep place, so the correct answer is choice A. Number 4. A stream has a source. Okay, remember, source means where the stream starts. At an elevation of 1,000 meters. It ends at a lake that has an elevation of 300 meters. So that's our other piece that we need. Elevation of 300 meters. If the lake is 200 kilometers away from the source, what is the gradient? Okay, so you need to calculate gradient. Gradient is equal to change in value over distance. Okay, so our values are the meters, so I can put that in parentheses next to it so I remember. Distance is in kilometers. So my change in value is going to be 1,000 meters minus 300 meters divided by 200 kilometers. Okay? So that's the data that we got from the actual question. And if you're confused about where to put the numbers, just realize that meters should go with meters at the top and kilometers is the distance on the bottom. So 1,000 minus 300 is 700 meters. Divided by 200 kilometers, your answer should be 3.5 meters per kilometers. Okay, so the correct answer was C. Do you have any questions on the front page at all? Questions? Look back at it. Is there anything that you wouldn't have been able to answer if this was a test question? Or maybe if you did get it wrong, you still don't understand why, or you'd like me to go over it again? I'll just give you my answer key when I'm done.
I just wanted to upload the map so we can follow.
Gotcha.
So I didn't do anything else.
Okay. Okay. Last page, or second side, 4 more questions. This was a little bit of a harder map to read, I thought. Mostly due to the spacing of the lines themselves. They're super squished and close together, which does make it harder for you. Not impossible, just a little bit harder. So it says, what is the general direction of flow at the river between points E and F? So before I answer this question, I'm going to do what I did before. North, south, east, west. Never eat soggy waffles, right? That's what someone teaches you to remember that? I never learned that, but okay, it is true. Soggy waffles are probably disgusting. So they want to know the compass direction of the river flow between these 2 points. Here's E, here's F. Okay, so there's a few things that you can look at. First thing, and I think really the most obvious on this map, is how the contour lines point. Trace over them if you didn't notice them before. Look at how they point toward E. Okay, they're pointing away from F. And so you need to remember that contour lines point toward the source. So this is the source. And the source is always at a higher elevation than where the river goes. Okay, so that leads us to the second way we could figure this out, by counting the lines. So 50 is this contour line right here. Going up, this would be 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, and then up to 110, 120, 130, and 140. So obviously, if we go toward E, the numbers are getting higher. When we go toward F, the numbers are getting lower. So we know that the river's flowing from E toward F. And so using our compass directions, we could see our arrows pointing to the W, so east to west is correct for A. Hello? No problem. Number 6. What is the approximate distance along the dirt road from G to H? Okay, so here's G to H. It's this dirt road right here, almost like a candy cane shape. And so it's not a straight line, so it's a little bit harder to get the distance. What I probably would have done is do it in 2 sections. So get the distance from like here to here, and then the distance from there to H. So like this section, the curved section, and then this section. And then when you add them together, you should get a distance of approximately 3.2 kilometers. That's choice B. Number 7, what is the elevation of the highest contour line shown on the map? So for this, you needed to look at the actual map itself. I see that the highest number they wrote is 100, but I also see numbers within 100. So I know I'm counting by tens. And so this is 100, 110, 120, 130, and then that kind of circle that's around A on your map here would be 140. That's your highest elevation on the map. Over here, this would be 110, 120, and where D is would be 130. So not quite as high, but there is a higher one to the right. So that's 140. Okay, number 8. What is the rate of change in elevation or gradient of the land from point C to point D? So using the map itself, you should have found that C is equal to 100 meters, D is equal to 130 meters, and their distance is 2 kilometers. So 130 kilometers minus 100, meters, get rid of the K, divided by 2 kilometers. And so your correct answer then should be choice A, 15 meters per kilometer. So looking at this, just make sure you have the right data. If you got the wrong answer, that tells you something, but not a lot. Look at the actual data I put in. Did you have the correct values for the numerator? Okay, if you did, and you still got the wrong answer, it's probably your distance. And vice versa. If your distance was correct, but you got a different number for one of these, that's probably what threw off your answer. Okay, so just check back at your work. See where you went wrong so you don't make the same mistake on Friday. Is there anything that I can go over again or show you more clearly? Yeah?
Number 8, how did you get 130 meters per feet?
Good question. So here's C. C tells you 100 right off the bat, right? And so when you're counting, you're kind of going up this hill. So if this is 50, and I'm just going to trace over it as best I can, this line is 50 right here. So if I want to count up, I know that this line is 100. So I know that each of these counts by tens. And as I count up, 110, 120, this is the 130, because it's kind of within that. You count up. If you wanted to count here, you could have 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 120, 130. Wait, let's see. 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120, 130. Okay, you're just counting each line by 10 up. Okay? And you know that it's not a lower point, because remember, a depression has to have these little lines on it. That's how you would know if it was some kind of hole, which it's not. So anytime you see circles within circles, the line's value goes up. Okay? Is that better? Anyone else a question on last night's homework? Good. It was a little challenging, so if you did well, that's awesome. Okay, keep up the good work. Take out your notes, please. If you need notes, I'm going to put them on my desk. Just come and grab them.
Is that the second one?
Yeah, it should be on the back.
Yeah, but like on the writing
Oh,
part.
okay.
Can I take a picture of
Yep.
the writing?
Yep, go ahead. Oh, yeah. Okay, so I'm just going to zoom out a little bit. Here you go. So this sheet in your notes is what you'll be doing tomorrow with the sub. So please write that at the top so we're all on the same page. So where it says mapping practice, this is what you're doing tomorrow with the sub. It is exactly practice of last night's homework. There's really nothing different about last night's homework and this. Once you write that, flip the page. Okay, that is where we'll be starting today. Okay, so that whole page that you're doing tomorrow is with the sub in class. So you practice it in class, answer on your whiteboards, and then the sub will give you your homework for the night. Okay, so everybody knows what their expectations are. I am leaving notes to the sub that say, if students do very well, give them a class check when I come back on Thursday, if I get a good report. And also specifically individual. So if the sub thinks you did exceptionally well, did everything you needed to do, were quiet, then I will give you an individual check in addition to that. Okay? Also, that's a negative flip too. If you stood out as someone that was calling out, standing up, walking around, which I don't think will happen in here, but that will be noted by the sub as well, and you'll get a negative check when I get back. So the same expectations I have for you when I'm here, the sub will have probably even more so. Okay? Does anyone have any questions on that? And so you only have lecture tomorrow, so you only have to worry about a single period with the sub. And then the sub will give you your homework for that night once you finish the classwork, and you'll probably get to work on that in class too. That won't take the whole period. Okay? Anything that you have extra time-wise, you have a study guide, which has lots of pages. You could do that as well once you're totally finished. Okay? So let's skip to our next page, which should look something like this. Okay, profiles. And let me just make this a little bit bigger. Okay, so understanding profiles versus topographic maps. Okay, so just a definition to get us started. A profile is a side view of an object. Generally, when we're doing profiles, it's some kind of hill. A topographic map is a view from above an object or hill. So profile is side view, topographic is a view from above. Okay, so label your columns, topographic and profile. And now what I'd like you to start doing is to kind of begin to see the shape of the profile in the topographic map. So we're going to be matching. So take a look at the column on the left. Try to see which one of those could be represented as a profile on the right. You don't have to do them in order, but try to see if you could make sense of at least one of them. And then if you feel confident, share that with us by raising your hand and telling me which number you think goes with which letter. So take a second and look at those two columns. Yep, they're right on the desk. Yeah, Christian. B goes with which one? 1. I agree with you. So take a look up here. So we are all on the same page. So when I look at 1, I see something that's elevated. I see circle within a circle within another circle. And then on the left, I see another little circle. So that shows me a little hill. But on the right, I see a bunch of circles within circles. So this is a big hill. And this is a small hill. The small hill should be on the left, the big hill should be on the right, so it's kind of lopsided. And Christian correctly said that 1 should go with B, because I see my small hill, and then over here I see my big hill on the right. So that's exactly what you want to look for. Nice job. That was a hard one too. So now that you're kind of maybe getting used to what to look for, look at another one. Doesn't have to be number 2, it could be any of them. Think about what number goes with which letter. And if you feel confident, again, raise your hand. Take a look at those. Christian, your contract's out. Nice. Okay, give me another one. What do you think? Sarah. 5 is up. So let's see. 5 looks like a nice gradual slope on the left, and I can tell that because the lines are so far apart, with a steep side on the right, and then we have like a flat top, which is exactly what F looks like. Very nice. Okay, give me another one. What do you think? Ooh. We'll do a class. Okay. What do you think? Another one. Michael.
6 is D.
6 is D. Let's see. There's another one that 6 looks like too. So let's see. I see circles within another circle, and then I see a bunch. So these look both like about the same size, really steep hills with a pretty deep valley in the middle. I think D looks like that, but I think there's a better one.
B.
B. Well, we said B here. B was already picked. A. Good, exactly. The valley in the middle is a little bit deeper, which you can see here for A. Very nice. Good. Okay, give me another one. I love seeing all these hands. Cool. Oh. 2 for D. 2 for D. Let's see. 2. No, E. 2 for E. Okay. So 2 looks like a bunch of circles within circles with a little peak in the center with a tiny dot at the top. And that's exactly what E looks like. Very nice. Cool. I'll come back there in a second to give you your check. If I forget, just remind me, okay? And we got 2 left. What do we think? Brody?
6 to D.
Well, we have 3 and 4 left. 3 and 4, C or D?
C.
4 and C, yeah, I agree. It looks like very steep on the left-hand side and gradual on the right, so that's exactly what C looks like. Very nice, which means then our last one, 3, is D, okay? Nice. So now what we're going to be learning to do is draw these, okay? So if you have a pen in your hand, I'd like you to take out a pencil, and I'd also like you to ensure that your pencil is nice and sharp. Which way? Good. Because 3 only has 2 circles within circles, so that tells me that the actual height of the mound itself is not so different one side to the other. Whereas 6 has a bunch of circles within circle on each side, so you know it's a higher peak in itself, by itself. Okay, so pencils out, no pens, absolutely none. No pens to be seen anywhere at any point today. We're
we're going outside for lunch, right?
Oh, yes. Hope everyone brought their umbrellas. Definitely not. Okay, so everybody ready with a pencil? No pens. I'll say it again because it's that important. So you should have an index card in your possession as well. That is my gift to you. You can use that tonight on your homework as well. You'll probably need it. So don't lose it. You may want to put your name in the middle somewhere, but if you lose it, it is what it is. You can use another sheet of paper. Just for now, it's a little bit easier to use an index card. So I gave you step-by-step rules in your notes on how to do this. I'm not going to go through the rules by highlighting each one. I'm going to show you how to do it. But if you feel like tonight that you completely forgot what we did in class, you can go through each of these rules and do it at home on your own, okay? So don't worry about, oh, I forgot what Miss Lunch showed me to do today. This is a step-by-step of doing that. So this is here for you, but I'm going to walk you through it together with me because I think that's a better way of learning. Okay, so flip to the next page of your notes on what looks like this. Okay, this is my index card. Okay, so you have an index card, I have one too. So that's up here. I'm just going to put it to the side for now. And so let's take a look at what we have here. This is a topographic map. It's a view from above, from on top of something, which is why it's called topographic. So if you were in a helicopter or flying above a mountain, this is what you could see if you could see exact elevations. Okay? The first step of drawing a profile, and one of the most important steps, is to label each of these lines directly above where we'll be drawing our profile. So in a second, our index cards are going to be right here. Okay, so I won't see anything on the bottom half of this picture while I'm making my profile. So the first step that we want to do is label each of these lines so that when we're making our profile, we know exactly the value of the line. Can someone tell me what we are counting by? What is our contour interval for this map? What do the lines count by? Colson. 20s? So this would be 0, 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. Exactly. So let's label these together above the line. Exactly where I put something, you should be putting something. 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. And then we're going to label this side too. So don't forget about the other side. I'm going to label 100, 80, 60. Be careful because now the lines are super close together. 40, 20, 0. Okay. So now once you've done that, you've labeled nice and carefully. The next step will be, I'm asking you to be as neat as you possibly can. For some people, this is the most torturous thing they've ever done in their whole lives. Those are usually people that are very sloppy when they do things. If you are that person, this will be your worst enemy. Make a choice right now to be very neat. If you are very neat and organized, and very specific and orderly, you will be very good at these. Every time you'll do it perfectly well. Try to be as neat as you can. That is my best advice for you. So now place your index cards right on the line just like I have. Now watch me first. Don't do anything. Watch me first because I want you to do it in a certain way. Because when you get down to this side, it'll be easier. So once you make your first line, exactly where the 0 line touches your index card, you're going to make a 0. Don't do anything yet. Just look up at mine. Okay? Then you're going to come to the 20 without moving this. This can't move at all. Once you draw this line on there, it cannot move. It has to stay in the exact same spot. Then you're going to put a line for the 20, 40. Don't do anything yet. Just watch me, please. 60, and then 80. And I'm going to pause here. So look up. I see a lot of people doing this. Don't do it. Please just listen. Look at each one of my points. Before I move on to the other half, I need to ensure that none of my paper has not slid one way or the other. If it slides, your profile will be off. So it has to stay locked in place from when you start to when you finish. Okay? Look at how I wrote the numbers. Do you see how I didn't write them this way? because this takes up more space horizontally. When you get over here, they're all cramped. So you want to be as neat as you can and write sideways. So you get the idea. Start doing this on your own and go all the way to the other side. If you need to look up at mine, you can. Remember, neatness is essential here. Yeah, I have the answers, but I might post a video for them to watch because they really need to see this.
I know.
But there's nothing.
That's so broken, your computer.
Yeah, I'm not gonna touch it because then I'm afraid
you're
it won't
able
work
to-
at all. At
okay.
least I can do this.
Okay.
I'll find a video on YouTube of drawing a profile and just post it for them. It's
Okay.
just a skill thing.
Cause like, when you're done with this, I don't know if I should take pictures.
No, because I have it in my,
Oh, it's in there.
yeah,
Okay.
it's in the answer key. And this is also a whole how-to. This is exactly what I'm doing.
Right.
So they can follow that
Okay.
and the video that I'll post. Hey. Yes. Yeah, go quick and come right back because I want to show you this part next. So, once you take your paper away, you should have lined from 0 on all the way up to 100, and then from 100 all the way back down to 0 again. So 0 up, 0 down. And when you're finished with this, just look up at me so I know that you're ready for the next step. If you're still working, that's fine. Keep your face down and working on your paper, that's fine. If you're not sure whether you did it right, you can also raise your hand and ask.
And Ms. Bunch, the line should go completely straight, or should they follow the up and down, vertical up and down?
What do you mean? It should be as perfect as you can make it. Just make sure that when you down here and you're drawing the lines in, that you follow the exact point where the
Okay.
line touches.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna move on to the next step. So if this part is not perfect, there's no way this is going to be perfect. Okay, so this is probably the most important part. And when I see students get these wrong, like when you get practice in lab, I'm gonna ask to see this because this will tell me whether you did it right or not. So it's best to take your time on this and make sure it's good to go before moving on to the next step. Okay, so now we move on to the next part of this, which is plotting your points. Hello? Yeah, can they come out in like 2 minutes or? Okay, all right, perfect, thanks, bye. All right, so now we're gonna plot our points. Hey. So now you're gonna make a dot where the 0 touches the 0. Okay, so right in the bottom left-hand corner. Now make sure this stays in the spot. So right where the 0 is on this axis, you're gonna, the whole time, make sure this stays exactly right here. And then you're gonna make another dot at the other end. I think your profile should just be a little bit shorter than the graph. So it's okay if it's not right up to the edge.
Sorry, are you using Chromebooks?
No.
Who's using those? Nobody?
No idea.
Thank you.
So now what you want to do, now you should have 2 dots, both on the 0. You're going to take your card that you made, and you're going to slide it up to the 20 line, okay? So you're going to stop it on the 20 line, and everywhere where you have a 20, you're going to make a nice big dot. Okay, in a second.
Yeah.
Okay. And And then you're gonna do the same thing, move the paper up, and you're gonna make a dot on the 40. And you're gonna keep doing the same thing, moving it up, making 2 dots, moving it up, making 2 dots. And trying your best to keep the 0 right in line with this axis. It shouldn't move left or right, just straight up. And so when you're finished, you could take your paper away, and you should have something that looks just like what I have. And then you could stop right there. We're just going to come take a quick look around and see how it's going. Nice. Yes. Good. Good. Okay. Okay, so for the most part, I see people right on point. So just take a second before we connect the dots, and I want you to make your dots nice and fat. Like if you held up your paper, I could see them from here. That's how big I want to see them. And the reason for this is how I grade these. So I'm just going to go back over all my dots and just make them a little bit bigger. Okay, so now the reason I want you to make your dots big is because when I grade this, I use one of these. I'm going to walk around so you can kind of see them, so just look up. So this is an exact copy of what one of the profiles look like in your notes. And when I grade it, I lay mine right on top of yours. And if my dots touch your dots, you're good. So do you see why big dots would be better dots? You increase the likelihood of you having your dot touch my dot, okay? So just make them nice and big like that. If they're a tiny little dot like this, it's so hard for it to be correct. Because even if it's a little off, it won't be good, like good enough, let's say. So now when you connect them, and let's see if I can change color without causing a whole problem. Watch me first. Don't just draw a straight line between them. You need to make sure you're drawing the line from one dot to the next dot and not touching anything else but dots. Not touching any other lines that you shouldn't be. You're just going straight from one dot to another. And you can do that, but skip the top. Don't draw in the top just yet. And so yours should look like mine when you're finished. So one line, not 2 lines. I would draw it nice and light until you're sure, and then if you want to go over it, that's fine. But just make sure the lines are connecting dots and not crossing over any lines that they shouldn't be. For example, a lot of times I see this. Just look up here quick. I see people connecting lines like this. Because this touched the line before it touched the dot, it makes it wrong. Does that make sense? The dots are like doorways. And so the line, if the line wants to get to the next, doorway, it has to go through the dot itself. It can't go through anything else. And so now when you connect your dots at the top, this is what I don't want to see. I don't want to see this, a straight line. Okay, that's all we're looking for. I don't want to see, what'd you say?
The computer's a little delayed on you.
Oh, yeah, and then look at all that weird stuff. Oh God. You don't want to see a low spot, like there's like a, maybe like a lake or something. You don't want to see a low spot. And you don't want to draw your line so high that it touches the next line. You want to make it nice and rounded, but it stays between these two lines.
So I don't need to use a straight edge for this. then?
No, don't use a straight edge. Nope. So you just want to connect it right so it goes in between the two. And so that's your first profile. So this is a skill. There's nothing to memorize except maybe what are the steps to do it effectively. Okay? So what I'd like you to try is the bottom one. Thank you. And so for the bottom one, you're going to do the same thing as we did in the top one. And then we'll get started with lab. I just want to give you another chance to have a practice for this one. So you're going to, what's that, Brody? Don't worry about it, Brody. Okay, so now just try the bottom one. Take your index card, and you're going to put it underneath of the line. I had somebody first period do the whole thing upside down. So you put your card underneath. Okay, you're going to be numbering on top. Okay, so 0 would be this line. This is 50. And so this would be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 in the middle, and then again 40, 30, 20, 10, 0. And so your index card is going to go underneath of A, B, right here. And you're going to do the same steps as I showed you before.
Yes. So if you look at it, she started at what? Yes. What's next? What's next?
Madison and Angela, just went down to the nurse quick that she asked for you. Okay. Madison and Angela. If you think you have a correct profile, I'm going to come around with my answer key and I'll show you whether it's correct or not. So when you're fully finished, complete profile, the dots are all connected and you're ready, tell me, and then I will check it with my answer key. Okay, so you know where just make sure you label them just like I did, and then you can move the card under the line. Definitely give me some pencil. Try to do it like on the actual edge, because it's much easier. Okay, and sharpen your pencil a bit easier. Okay, I'll be right around to start checking profiles. I'm just going to take attendance quick. homework from my desk. So once you get your profile checked, you can grab a homework. And then if you want to get started on the homework or maybe on the lab, that's fine. The homework is up on my desk. You can just grab it. Yeah, go ahead. Nice, perfect. Grab homework. You got your hand up?
Yeah.
You did? Well, it's not finished. So just make sure the line goes through each point and then you connect the top. Can you do the homework right now? You can start the homework or the lab. The lab is due finished. So if you want to do that first, perfect. Grab homework.
You want?
Good, perfect. Grab homework. Perfect. Grab homework. Perfect. Grab homework.
Now trace them, right? Before. Do it.
The bottom should be squished in there a little bit. It might be because you started it. You started it like that way. Be careful, you start right 0 on 0 to start, but otherwise it will work. Yes. This should be.
Yeah, hold on. You want to you're up.
Let's all
You do that? Oh, this is our one? Yeah, that's 1 minute. Right?
Again. He's chased me these 5 times. Plus from the camera, that's where I'm back. Definitely, you guys did. I talked to everyone, vote for me.
Okay, so we're moving on to lab. So if I checked you, just grab a homework, Christian. And you can also take out your latitude, longitude lab if I've checked you, and the goal is to finish that by the end of the period. So you still have about 20 minutes. So get to work finishing that lab, and then I would do the lecture homework. Perfect. When is the lab due? Lab is due at the end of the week on Google. Okay, give me like 5-10 more minutes because there's a bunch of stuff I can have to do. I just have to check on Google and just get that right now. Okay. Okay.
Yes. South and 25 west. South. Understood?
Yep. Okay, so your goals for this period are on the board. You may want to copy them down, or maybe you can just remember them. So the first thing I would be working on if I were you is the lab. Finish the lab. It's due on Friday on Google. This should be the last period we're working on it. Next class, you're going to have a brand new lab, so we're moving right along. The second thing you can work on is the lecture homework. So once you finish the lab, feel free to take out the lecture homework and work on that. And then the third thing, if you still have time at the end of the period, you have a study guide you can be filling out. I have extra copies down here if you need it. Or any missing work. If you were absent, this is an excellent time for you, once you finish the goals, to just catch up on what you need to catch up on. Or if you're not sure of what that is, ask me and I can tell you what that is. Okay? But just make sure you're working on the lab first. That should be your important thing to do first.
And Ms. Bunch, as I finish that lab, it's supposed to be inputted into Google, right?
Yes, it goes
And
right on
then
Google.
after that, it goes into the
Go
folder.
in the folder and that's it. That's the process. Well, you have to do it on Google and take them. Correct. This doesn't exist, right? Because the greatest latitude
Then
we
the
have
file
is
goes to
yeah.
Fine, 16 more, 75
Yes.
units.
You may not have it. It's latitude and longitude lab.
It goes
So you
175
look at
units.
positions using latitude and longitude. Christian, you doing that? Take out your lab first, then longitude.
Yeah, we're gonna just write down. Then you're going 40 degrees south. 40 degrees south. 40 south, and 0.
I think you did put it in Google, otherwise your name, I think, would be close. If you did, just double check, yeah, finish that and then put it on Google, and then I'll give you the new lab.
You know, you can say, you can go over it.